Ahoy hoy, I'm Planetwalk, and my last two videos were pretty much about nothing, so I thought I might as well continue the trend for a third video, and talk about the ultimate nothing. Death. This is a topic that quite a few people are uncomfortable with, and understandably so. The thought of no longer existing can be a scary thought. And I think that's part of the reason why I think people are attracted to ideas such as the afterlife, because it is a way to try and help you deal with your own mortality. But the thing that's most fascinating to me about death is not so much what happens after you die, although I do have a morbid curiosity about that. It is more how we think about death. There is a famous quote by Ernest Hemingway that goes, "Every man has two deaths, when he is buried in the ground and the last time someone says his name." Now Vsauce did recently expand on this, but I don't want to talk too much about photos, although I will be making a point using this photo from when I was really tiny. Look at how tiny I was compared to now. But the point that I want to make with this photo is this me? I mean, people have told me that that's me. Doesn't really look anything like me though. I don't see the resemblance. Now presumably, whoever's in this photo has changed since this photo was taken, and is a very different person now. Maybe their hair has gotten longer, maybe it's even gotten darker, and I assume that they wear very different clothes. Which does raise the question, has this kid technically died? In a sense, yes, this kid doesn't really exist anymore. I am a very different person to this kid. This kid never had a YouTube channel. However, this kid didn't die in the normal sense of death, where it's his organs shut down and his body stopped working. You know, his body kind of still exists, but also not really. Most of the atoms and molecules that were in this kid's body when this photo was taken are probably no longer in what we would consider their body anymore. So by all means, this kid doesn't really exist anymore. They used to. There was a time when this photo was taken, but no longer is that the case. You can't go ahead and find this kid and take the same photo. But then some people will say, well, they haven't really died. I mean, they've changed, but that doesn't mean that they've died. And I actually agree with that. Just because you've changed doesn't mean that you've died. The atoms in your body will change over time, but that's not really the death of you. It's just, you know, natural change that happens to everyone on Earth. But then sometimes you will have people that will undergo a change that's so drastic that they'll say that the person who I used to be is dead, and here's a new person. And this can be for a number of different reasons. You see this quite commonly with trans people, or even born-again Christians, or even people that have turned their life around. In their mind, the person that they used to be no longer exists, and thus is dead. And I can relate to this. I know that I have changed a lot, and in many ways I'm definitely not the same person that I used to be. There are many things that are different about me since even 5 years ago, let alone 20. If someone were to come up to me and start describing me from 10 years ago, I'd wonder who they're talking about. And then when they explain that it's me, I'd say, well, the person you described no longer exists. Yes, I may share some similarities with that person from 10 years ago, but I am not that person from 10 years ago. In a way, that person from 10 years ago is dead. I can't say when they died. It might have been sometime around 2018, but they no longer exist. But the important thing that I think we can all agree on is that I'm not dead. Well, we have to agree on who I am first, though. To most people watching, you'll probably just know me as Planetwalk. To people that know me in real life, they'll probably know me as Nick, or even by another name. I have had many Nick names in my life, including Wacko Old Nick. That was one of my favourites. Anyway, there's two very different people here. There's Planetwalk and then there's Nick. Now, if my channel dies and I can't upload any more videos, then Planetwalk's gone, they're dead. Nick will survive, I hope, but Planetwalk won't. However, when Nick dies, that's going to be something different, depending on what we mean by dies. Because if I die from my body shutting down, then no more videos. It's kind of hard to do when your body is not working. But if we define dying as changing a significant amount, then, well, Planetwalk can then continue. I have made no secret about how I'd like to start ADHD medication, and if I were to do that, I would change a significant amount, and it could be considered a form of death. The brain buzzing that makes it very difficult for me to concentrate at times could go away, and that would be a significant change for me. Much in the same way that if a person turns their life around, they may consider their old self dead. If I start ADHD medication, then maybe my old ADHD self would be dead. Or maybe in a coma, more like it. If I stop the ADHD medication, then that can change, but you get where I'm going, right? Just as an aside, it is way too difficult to get ADHD medication as an adult in New Zealand. There are so many hoops that you have to jump through, it is unbelievable. Anyway, you'll notice that sometimes I have talked about Planner Walk as though I'm not Planner Walk. I mean, I'm doing it right now, I'm talking about Planner Walk in the third person. That's because Planner Walk isn't really real. Here's a way of thinking about it, and I'm about to do something that I don't usually do. You see, what you see in these videos is very, very edited. If I mess up or make a mistake, I get rid of that. At least most of the time. I'm not doing it right now to kind of make a point. If I mess up this part, then, and if I'm about to lose my train of thought, usually when I lose my train of thought, I just completely go, okay, let's go back and redo that segment. What you see is very much a controlled version of myself that I put out there. And that is for good reason. People don't necessarily want to watch me try and figure my thoughts out over like 10 minutes of me trying to go, so here's what I'm thinking. People want to see me express my thoughts in a quick and concise way, although that may not necessarily always be what happens. I also try to be more animated with my hands, because if I were to just sit here like this, then it seems like there's no point in even watching. I mean, I know a lot of people just put these on in the background, but you know, some people might want to actually have something to look at. And this means that people who watch me will have a very different idea of who I am than people that know me in real life. And even the people that know me in real life will each have a very different idea of who I am. And this is especially relevant because I have seen myself die more than once, in a metaphorical sense, because of this. You will have people in your life that will view you in a certain way, and it may take you doing one thing, maybe that thing might be breaking up or saying something that they don't like, and their outlook on you will just completely change. Hell, maybe even me making this video has completely changed how people see me, and a version of me has died in the mind of the person watching this. But that's not really me that has died. That is just a perception that someone has made up of me. But that's how we all view each other. We never really know who another person is. We just create a perception of that person and we say, okay, this is this person. We've assigned so many qualities to them, and that is who they are in our mind. Sometimes that can be accurate. Sometimes it can be completely wrong. But to take this a step further, it's not just other people that create perceptions of us. We also create perceptions of ourselves that may be accurate, that may be inaccurate. For a good example of this, we can look at things like Dunning-Kruger or even imposter syndrome, where we have a very different impression of ourselves than who we might actually be. Now, sometimes that perception will be fairly accurate, and there might be a perception of ourselves that we want to change. It might be that we want to work harder and get that promotion. Once we get that promotion, we have become a new person. Now, getting a promotion doesn't magically change who you are, but in your mind, it is a big thing. The perception that you have of yourself has now changed. It could be significant enough that you say, well, I am no longer that person. That person has died. I am a new person. And that's kind of what people are. They're perceptions that we have of not only each other, but of ourselves. And when we die, that perception changes. Even if you literally die, your perception of yourself does change from having a perception of yourself, whatever that may be, to not having a perception of yourself. And likewise, the last person that says your name will have a perception of you. Once they stop thinking about you, that perception of you has gone from being a perception to no perception at all. Now you may be thinking at this point, can we just keep death at your body stops working? That's what most people think of when they think of death. And yes, that is what people commonly mean by death, but that's not the only way that people think about death, which is kind of the entire point of this video. We have very different ways of thinking about death at times, which is very fascinating to me. This idea that we die more than once completely relies on how we define death, but it also reflects how we think about others. Most people don't think of others as a machine that once that machine stops working, it's gone. We usually think of others as people that have legacies. What people do and how we affect other people's lives has a lasting impact, and I think that's the main thing that people remember. When we die, it's not over. There are still other people that get to continue living. Unless you're the main character, maybe the show ends at that point. But for most people, them dying isn't going to end the universe, and what they've done will have a lasting impact, for better or for worse. And that can be seen as a form of an afterlife. Sure, you don't get to experience it, but other people do. Anyway, that's my video about nothing. It's worth nothing, means nothing, but somebody's going to get something out of it, and that's something. I've once again managed to prove that I am God, as I have created something from nothing. Everybody better worship me. That's the whole point of this video. I spent 3 videos creating something from nothing, so I think that's worthy of a like, a subscribe, and a worship. But in all seriousness, I just wanted to create a video that some people might think is being overly deep, where it's not actually deep, but it kind of looks like it depending on what angle you view it from. So I think I achieved that, and it was fun anyway. So between you and me, Memento Mori.
One day you're going to die.